Yo. All right. I want to talk about NBA stats, basketball stats in general. All right. Now, there's a lot of basketball players out there that have legendary stats, right? You got your legendary stat chasers, okay? You have Walt Chamberlain. You have LeBron James. You have Oscar Robertson. Now you could throw Russell Westbrook into that equation. You have a lot of guys that fill up the stat sheet, right? Okay. James Harden as well. A lot of guys that fill up the stat sheet that could put up numbers that seem unreal. When you look at the paper, you're like, dang, how did he do that? Okay, there's also ways to manipulate getting a lot of good stats. So this is why the phrase comes, stats don't tell the whole story. Because in reality, they don't tell the whole story, okay? They tell some of the story, but the story still has to be broken down and it still has to be watched with your own two eyes, and you still have to break the game down accordingly. How did he get those stats? What way did he, what were the circumstances or the situation to leading that? And this comes into play also the definition of stat padding. Okay? What is stat padding? Okay, stat padding is keeping track of your stats, knowing that, hey, I'm going to focus on getting this in particular stat over winning first. You know, you see a lot of this. You see James Harden was stat padding not too long ago, a game and on the Rockets were playing, and Austin Rivers, he tucked the rebound away from him because he know James Harden wanted the rebound to get a triple-double. That's what you call stat padding, because you're not doing it naturally. The game, your stats aren't coming to you naturally. They not through the flow of the game. They're coming out of a way of you keeping track of what you're doing, you know, just to get that. Now, here's the other level of stat padding. It takes a credible talent to stat pad, okay? You would have to be a real good basketball player to stat pad. So basically, in order to do that, you have to be able to put up stats. It's one thing wanting to put up stats, but if you have the ability to put up stats, you're a superstar, then yes, you can necessarily stat pad, okay? Now, you have guys like Jordan, Kobe, let's see, Larry Bird. Those guys, they always gave off the narrative or the impression that they don't stat pad, right? They're not looking for their stats. And the reason why people don't look at these guys as padders or guys that pad their stats is because every time they playing, they busting their ass off, you know? Jordan could have broke a lot of records, a lot of scoring records, but he didn't do it. He just got everything by within the flow of the game trying to win. You know, Jordan's main concern was always winning. You get that same sense with Larry Bird. You get that same sense with Kobe. But guys like James Harden, and I guess sometimes you could say LeBron, because some people feel like this about him. They feel like these guys stat pad or winning is second to them. Okay, if you feel a player is hot dogging and winning is second to them, and all they care about is their numbers and stats first, then winning, that's called stat padding. Okay, that's a guy that's not concerned with winning that much. Carmelo Anthony was a big stat padder. Okay, the proof of this, after games, when they lose, guys would say, you know, they'll be down in the locker room, sad, and Carmelo Anthony be like, yeah, we get them next time, guys. We good. You know, he'll be happy because he got his little 28 points or 30 points a game. He didn't mind getting those points if it meant losing. You know, Chauncey Billups touched on this a while back. You know, that's an example, a prime example of stat padding. That's a guy that's more concerned with his individual numbers, getting max contracts, That was Carmelo Anthony back in the day. This is the reason why he doesn't have a championship, because he had plenty of opportunities to get a championship. So the reason why you ain't got a ring is because of yourself. You was a free agent. You didn't have to join LeBron and D Wade. You could have joined another team and won a championship, though. You know, the minute you join the Knicks, you know you're not going to win a championship. You there for other reasons. Nobody goes to the Knicks to win championships. Okay, you automatically know the Knicks is one of the most dysfunctional, shittiest franchises in NBA history. It's just a dump. Okay, winning and Knicks don't go together. Never. Okay. You know that roster was messed up from the minute you got there. You just wanted a big max contract and end your career in New York and put up good stats. That's all you was chasing. You know? Walt Chamberlain is another stat pattern. Okay? He's another one. He was a chucker, man. Walt Chamberlain was a chucker. Another stat pattern. This is why all these guys that stat pad, you notice all these guys that have all these incredible stats, the winning department, they always sold a little short. Okay? The same thing could be said for LeBron. You know, there's some people that say he could have won more championships, right? Reason for that, even though he has some of his losing finals, he has historic numbers, right? But those historic numbers don't mean that much to certain people if you're losing, all right? Walt Chamberlain lost a lot of times, you know? You could say Walt Chamberlain and LeBron is like vice versa, you know? LeBron could be the Walt Chamberlain of this era more than being like a Michael Jordan of this era, you know, because they both have unbelievable stats, you know, historic type of things they're doing. But the wins and losses, it varies a little bit. What separates LeBron and Walt Chamberlain, though, is the fact that LeBron got more championships. And the fact that LeBron had to do it a little bit more of a harder way because he had to face more competition. Not saying Walt Chamberlain didn't have to face any competition, but that was during the Renaissance years of the NBA. You know, at some point the league was only 8 players. You know, you look at the history of the NBA. People of color couldn't play in the NBA to a certain time. You had guys like Oscar Robertson fighting for a social injustice and equal rights for people. You know, this is where the ABA and NBA emerged. The ABA was more of an urban basketball league full with minorities, and the NBA was full with majority of people that created basketball, which was actually a white person. This is another reason why Kobe will never be the logo of the NBA, but that's another story. But off of that for a minute. Now, let's break down actual stats, okay? You have certain players that could get you 28 points a game, right? But you don't have to go through the flow of a game to get 28 points. Here's a perfect example. Kobe played Jordan back in the 90s, right? Kobe was only 19, all right? And people say, oh, Kobe dropped 33 on Jordan. No, he did not, okay? Jordan was always outplaying Kobe. Let's get that. Let's don't even go there, all right? Here's the thing, though. Kobe got 33 in that game against Jordan, but a lot of those points were in garbage time. Keep in mind, the Lakers only scored 83 points in one of those games. I'm just narrowed down one game. Okay, I could narrow down several games, but we just narrowed down one. One game, the Lakers had 83 points, and the Bulls had 100-plus points. It was a blowout. Jordan was sitting on a bench for the last 5 to 6 minutes of the fourth quarter. The game was already out of reach. Kobe was coming off the bench. Therefore, he was able to stat pad and put up empty stats. Okay? It's not even against Jordan. This is just him filling up the stat sheet, putting up empty numbers. That's another way how you could stat pad points. A second way you could stat pad points, well, I wouldn't say stat pad, but that example is stat padding or misleading stats. Another way you could have a misleading stat is field goal percentage goes a certain route, okay? If you constantly attacking the basket and you're getting fouled and you get into the free throw line a lot, your field goal percentage is going to look shitty. It's going to look real bad, right? And a person on the outside looking at that will say, oh, this person had a bad game. but not necessarily, because you're still putting the pressure on the defense and you're getting to the free throw line. The efficiency is really at the free throw line. But you wouldn't notice that because you're not watching the basketball game. You're just looking at the numbers. All right? Another way to increase your stats and make your stats seem like more dominant when it's really not is to get stats when certain players come off you. Okay, if you watch, you have to watch the game to watch this. Okay, not all matchups are equal. Okay, so when you see like a matchup Kawhi Leonard versus Greek Freak, a lot of times teams don't pit these guys against each other, so they don't really even see the day and light to play against each other. You probably guard each other five or four possessions. That's it, right? And those possessions that they guard them, you get to see what's up sometimes. But a lot of the times, it's usually a role player on a superstar because they got to preserve their energy. All right, so you don't really get these classic one-on-one battles like you think you're getting because the superstars aren't really guarding each other. So this is how you could say, oh, this guy got this stats against this guy, but he may not. When you put that superstar on that player, it becomes a little difference. LeBron did the same thing to Carmelo Anthony. They guard each other in 2012. All right. This is a mind-blowing stat. Whenever LeBron guarded Carmelo Anthony's efficiency and scoring went down. All right. Carmelo Anthony scored when LeBron wasn't on him most of the time. And he also got a lot of garbage time minutes, a lot of garbage buckets, which increases your stats, as I just said. All right. Another one, you had back in the day, this is what I like about the 80s and the 90s per se. Michael Jordan. This is another reason why he's the GOAT. This guy played against, he always wanted to play against the best individual player on the opposite team. He would literally, you see stories where he would literally say, I got this guy tonight. He's mine. You know, he would go mano on a mano with Dominique Wilkins. Okay, they're guarding each other. They're going back and forth. Little brother, big brother scoring on each other. You know, classic battles like that. You don't see that much guys doing that these days or accepting that challenge. You know, LeBron is more of a team player, so you're not going to get that out of him too much. You know, that mano on a mano type of stuff. So when you look at stats, watch the game first. Don't just look by the scoreboard and don't believe what the media and ESPN is telling you because a lot of the times they're lying. And they're just saying things to boost up their favorite player. Watch the games. This is how people come up with narratives of this guy choking or this guy coming up small because they watch the games and they see with their own two eyes, okay? Basketball is a game played by humans, okay? People with emotions and feelings. The game is not just physical, it's mental as well, okay? You have to think when you're on that floor. The mind controls the body. So if you have a moment of weakness, a moment of, oh, I can't get this done, it's going to show in your game. Because a lot of basketball is mental. A lot of basketball is believing that you can be. This is why I say Jordan's one of the greatest. Matter of fact, Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time, you know, for me, right? Because his approach, okay, he wasn't always the most, I guess you couldn't say he was always the most skilled, even though his skill set was completely different. It's a video for another time. But yeah. Anyway, peace. That's the misconception of stats. So I hope you guys understood that. Peace.